Okay, perfect. So thanks, Himanshu. So what I will do is, I mean, I'll take it over from here. We'll look at the way allocations are, transferred to S4 HANA. Then we'll look at few of the, scheduling challenges that can be overcome within S4 HANA PPDS. And, we'll just go through the system. We'll talk about few challenges and some of the tools that are available for the planner or scheduler to overcome those challenges. So I'll start off with, from an allocation perspective, what we have is, those allocations that are from IBP, we can actually simply upload them to S4 HANA using a simple download upload, or if there is some automation that is needed, we can work that out too. But for the ease of the process, what we have done is we have simply taken those allocations, the numbers, if we were tracking the numbers that Himanshu was and the products that Himanshu demonstrated, I simply, downloaded it from IBP and we just uploaded it to S4 HANA. And from this point onwards, depending on at what level we want to consume the allocation, it does it based on the incoming orders. But essentially, it's all web-based, UI for allocation, maintaining all the attributes and everything else that we would typically in the older systems we were actually configuring. Right now it's all in Fiori. So once the allocations are there, incoming orders start consuming those allocations. And then what we have is within Fiori, if we start getting into the scheduling part of it, what you may see is we've got two tiles for scheduling board. One is the Fiori based app that SAP delivers, and what we use typically is, this is something that we do at most of our customers. The reason being some of the graphical features and advanced features like optimization, those capabilities are not yet available within the standard app. So what we do is we basically, using NetWeaver business client, we just call the standard transaction, and then from that point onwards, sorry, it's just seamless from a scheduler's perspective on using the DS board and the features of the DS board. So that's exactly what I have done here. Is basically it just opens a new screen and just tells you to enter your DS board, profile, and it should end up in this screen the way we see in standard DS board. So what we have here is, for easily tracking, what I have done is we have just color coded some of these the orders that we have. And if I just quickly flip back to the challenges that we have from a process industry perspective, we talk about, Suraj spoke about continuous production, right? So we don't start like discrete. Then we have batch sizes, which are quite important depending on how long your runs may be, from a few days to maybe even week or a couple of weeks, depending on how long your campaigns are. Then as part of the response, when we get these daily orders, we don't run those orders in daily format. We have to merge those orders. We might create campaigns within PPDS. And of course, the classic drag and drop features, which helps the planner to fine tune or refine the schedule based on execution within the execution windows, based on whatever issues or challenges that might come in. So as we spoke about, I can, from a merge perspective, we've got some things that we can merge and build a campaign and, have a longer run and just see the impact of that within our, the stock chart, or we may have a graphical stock chart, or we may have, tabular stock chart. We can use even drag and drops if we, depending on, I want to move it from one reactor to other, so we can do that. So all these simple kind of, tools, but which make the plan more effective and, gives better visibility and tracking from a, within the scheduling window. So I can even add, for now, we've just added a couple of charts. We can add more charts if we want. We can add the, the additional two charts that I typically use. One is the product chart, which even tells us the, the demand supply snapshot within the same DS board based on the scheduling changes, whether am I meeting the demands, and that those demands may be different for an STO, for a cross factory transfers, as well as, the sales order demand. So we can prioritize demands differently, color code them differently. Then what we have is, again, what we are not getting today is into campaign optimization, which is there. We can use optimizer for setup optimization, which has been there for a long time. We can use that setup optimization. So based on the production wheel that comes in from IBP, we can, build similar kind of production wheel within S4 HANA. And, depending on how we play with the setup metrics, the results are pretty good and close to the way a typical chemical plant would actually run. So other than that, I think then we talked about drag and drop. So just if I sum up a few things that we just looked at from a DS board perspective, we looked at the integration of allocation. There is some automation that can be done within, from an allocation standpoint. We looked at scheduling of orders. We can merge orders, create big campaigns, drag them to alternate resources. Ramp up, ramp down is something that can be done if we want to, if we are in that kind of situation, we can actually get to the ramp down, ramp up. We can actually go and, stretch and shrink the orders. So I can actually, depending on how up and down we've got some range over here, I can actually, shrink or stretch the orders. So just this helps typically during ramp up, ramp down kind of situations. So once, all these tools are standard out of the box, and then once the execution results come in, we can actually, transfer those results back to IBP and have an end-to-end seamless kind of plan. We started with the time series, demand planning, constraint forecast. We got into order series, and then we looked at the whole scheduling, sequencing within PPDS. So with that, what I will do is I'll hand it over to Matt, who can talk more about some of the innovations and, the roadmap from a product perspective. Over to you, Matt. Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep. You can go ahead to the next slide. Okay, thank you. I'm Matt Ryman with SAP, the Chemical Industry Business Unit. I only have 10 minutes. I'm just going to jump right into this. So to level set, here's a view of our portfolio of products. I think it's important to note from a business process level how we are connecting strategic and execution level processes. And it starts with the tactical planning processes, where we're focusing on a longer planning horizon, could be 1 to 3 years. And through these tactical processes, we work through our S&OP cycle, right? We achieve our consensus demand plan and rough cut capacity plan. From here, we move into the operational planning processes, where we're working in a shorter planning horizon. So from here, we're able to build our master production schedule, deployment planning, then ultimately into execution level processes. Our technology stretches end to end, with IBP covering these tactical, midterm, and short-term operational capabilities, S/4HANA for execution, and even expanding into the network with Ariba. Next slide, please. So just a quick disclaimer, any discussion on future developments are subject to change, and this information is not a commitment, promise, or legal obligation to deliver any material, code, or functionality. Other housekeeping item, in case you're not familiar with the nomenclature of our product releases, so for example, 2005, the first two digits correspond with the year 2020, or 20, it's 2020. The second two digits correspond with the month. So 2005 was our May release, 2008 is our August release. So certainly this only is going to touch some of our highlights. We're delivering improved functionality in all of our modules. I do encourage you to participate in our What's New session that development does quarterly, where we pack in a lot of content. For us today, I'm just highlighting some of the areas in our operational planning space. As I said earlier, I think shorter term planning and operational planning is also synonymous with order-based planning. So some of our recent highlights: deployment optimization was introduced as a new planning run in 2005. So deployment generates a short-term distribution plan to distribute available supply, and now we're able to optimize this considering network cost. Also in 2005, we have some improved web-based planning capabilities. As you saw in the demo, you can show order information in the web-based planning app, light touch, easy to use, and provide a level of detail to see the results of the planning run. In our upcoming release, in the deployment space, we will deliver fair share distribution, and so fair share for demands lets you partially fulfill independent demands in case of supply shortage, and fair share for inventory lets you evenly distribute inventory. Also in our upcoming 2008 release, we will deliver an integration pattern with order-based planning and embedded PPDS on S/4HANA 2020. So this will be available after the upcoming S/4HANA release, and I will talk about this topic more on the next slide. As we wrap up the year, we will have transportation resources to allow us to define the available transportation capacity per transportation lane and mode of transport. And then as we look into 2021 in our outlook, some other topics that are relevant for chemicals and the process industry: co-products, recursive bombs, infinite heuristics, subcontracting, real-time integration. And we look beyond that into 2022, we'll continue to enhance our capabilities in deployment planning. In this case, the load consolidation will be based on the output of deployment planning. It will determine stock transfers to be consolidated and then make a call to SAP TM to generate the load, and then also 2022 outlook, capacity leveling. So again, this is part of our order-based planning or operational planning. It's not all, it is certainly not everything, and again, it's subject to change. Sandeep, next slide, please. Okay, so moving forward on this topic of synchronized planning. So fundamentally, as the name suggests, it's about synchronizing our network plan and our plant-centric plans. And so this first integration scenario will be introduced with IBP 2008, and again, as I mentioned, with the 2020 S/4HANA release. So this is the first delivery on this topic, and it will continue to expand. The first integration scenario will be called Detailed Scheduling Delegated. So in this case, IBP order-based planning owns the production process while embedded PPDS does scheduling and sequencing. There's really two important components to this. So there's now a handover from IBP to detailed planning in what is being called the detailed planning and scheduling horizon. And then secondly is the ownership piece. We can distinguish between IBP orders and detailed orders scheduled by embedded PPDS. As I mentioned, this is the first step of this topic, and we'll continue to improve functionality and offer additional integration modes in future releases, and there will be release documentation available, so we'll keep an eye out for that in the coming months. Sandeep, next slide, please. Okay, so why is this important? So we're really bringing together important pieces of this end-to-end process, and this includes our network view, deployment processes, production planning, logistics capabilities, and the ability to monitor in the control tower. And we look at our current capabilities, we have a lot of flexibility to do simulations in a solution that's much less rigid than APO. This topic expands our ability to provide quick responses in the short-term planning process. And if you recall, in the beginning of the session, I mentioned the various planning horizons, right? There's different dimensions in these supply chain processes. They require different capabilities. So the ability to bring these capabilities together, to synchronize them, and to continue to drive integration is really how we're creating total value and a key part of this innovation topic. Next slide, please. Okay, real quickly, you saw a bit of embedded PPDS and S/4HANA. This is the manufacturing roadmap, and I wanted to highlight the PPDS sections. They're highlighted. So you in that first section that's highlighted, the enable time bucket finite MRP. Behind this, we are delivering a production planning optimizer. Also known as the PP solver. So this is going to provide capabilities for more complex environments like multi-level constraints. So I can't go into detail today, but I just wanted to make you aware that we do have an important delivery coming out in the upcoming S/4HANA release for PPDS, and certainly happy to continue that discussion if you're interested. And then the second bullet there is the synchronized planning from the perspective of PPDS. Okay, next slide, please. So that my penultimate slide, I wanted to highlight the concept of the control tower. So you saw a bit in the demo. I think the value proposition is becoming clearer in the industry. This concept is about this holistic view where you can define alerts and manage by exception and then drill down into these exceptions to resolve. So to put some color around one of the use cases, consider inventory visibility, particularly in the case if there's any sort of supply chain disruption. One of the first tasks at hand, understanding inventory in the network, what's on hand, what's in transit, what's projected, right? And then being able to navigate to warehouse management, TM, or production planning, detailed scheduling, or IBP to consolidate this global visibility, delivering a lot of speed in that assessment. So some of these capabilities exist and will continue to improve functionality. But again, just wanted to put some color around a control tower and to demonstrate the value. And that brings me to my last slide, Sandeep. Just for your information, we do have a new roadmap tool. There's a link here in the deck, and I hope you take advantage of it. It's quite nice because you have this kind of free field filtering that you can filter by industry or process or even products. So hope you can take advantage of that to have a further look. Again, just a glimpse into some of the innovation highlights, and happy to talk more. Feel free to reach out. So Sandeep, I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Matt. With that, what I'll do is I'll hand over back to
Sandeep. We can continue
Yep.
sharing. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for that insight. So we saw the demo and some of the SAP innovations. So I just want to tie it back to the challenges that we talked about before. We looked at the distribution plans. We looked at the cost optimization. We looked at time-phased bombs and production rates. We saw we can see the batches in IBP. We looked at some of the scheduling part of it. We did merge orders, ramp up and ramp down of orders, how to drag and drop to alternate reactors. We looked at that. We looked at product sales and customer hierarchies. We looked at allocations. Unfortunately, some of the ones that are gray, we don't have enough time because of the time constraint, but you guys can contact us later and we can go through that. Also the green thumbs up, just wanted to say those are the standard available features. Then there are the SAP roadmap features, and the MSCG solutions are the ones which where we have done some workarounds or some other things. You can go to next slide. So the final takeaways. So what we saw today was for process industry, the supply chain planning is a complex thing, but we can address these challenges. So it's SAP IBP and S/4HANA is now capable to handle these challenges. We also saw the SAP tools modules are flexible. You can pick and choose those modules based on your requirements, and SAP is planning more and more improved functionalities with each release, and it's going to just get better from here.